Hey, what's up, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be going over what I feel like are the best exercises to really grow your quads. My approach to training legs is really different from a lot of people. I tend to focus a lot more on unilateral lifts. I just love the idea of breaking the movement down and building strength one side at a time. That way, if you do have any muscle imbalances, you can kind of limit those as you build more strength. So I know this approach is different and it may take longer because you're working two sides. So start by just adding a couple of the exercises to your lift. Use dumbbells, use kettlebells, use barbell, however you like, and give it a feel. Repetitions high, moderate weight, 60% of what you would think your max is, and give it a try from that angle and see how it feels. I'm gonna be showing you a lot of these movements and you're gonna notice that we're not using any machines. I'm trying to really show you that you can build your legs up at home. You don't really need gym equipment. And by using gym equipment, some people lose a lot of muscle stability and balance by just being in those fixed positions. So today we're just gonna do movements that will be using free weights and you'll be able to gain stability and muscle mass from it. And we're also going to be doing the exercises in a way where I feel like they're the most important. We'll probably get to last. We're going to start with some of the least important exercises and we'll work our way up to the most important exercises. All right, some things you want to look for when you're setting up for the split squat. You want to make sure you're put in a position where both your hips are locked out. But you also want to make sure you have control over your front foot, like you're able to move forward and back. And then you want to lock yourself in position and really try to push through majority of your weight through your front leg while keeping the rest of your body upright. Back foot is just locked in. You're using it for balance, but you're also getting a little push from it, but you really want to focus majority of your weight on your front foot. And you really want to take your time with the movement, going really slow into it. You really want to just think about driving your opposite knee to the ground, and that'll be your focus to make sure you're staying in position. For the walking lunges, you really want to make sure you're not overstepping it. Sometimes people can take too broad of a step and they kind of overextend themselves. Then they got a lot more hip and get a lot more other muscle groups involved. You want to make sure you're taking the perfect step so you still have control. When you step out, you should be able to really push yourself back. Try that before you get started, and then you can just go into your lunges. You really want to keep your body in that 90-90 angle. What I mean by that is when you step forward, still want to make sure your knee, everything is still upright into a split squat position. It's almost like a walking split squat. For the kickstand, you really want to make sure you're mastering the foot position. So for this one, you want to stand shoulder width apart. And you want to take whichever side you're doing first, you want to take the opposite leg and put that leg back. And when you put the leg back, you want to make sure you're across from your heel of the other leg. And you'll be in this position to squat here. All right, next you got the goblet squat. But this one, you really want to make sure you're keeping the weight away from your body a little bit. That way you can kind of get your core engaged. Make sure your feet are set in a position where you're comfortable, that you can get low enough into your squat. And you kind of really want to put more force and more pressure into the kettlebell. That way when you sink, you have all that tension created so you can get as low as you need to get in your squat. So for the Curtsy lunge, you want to make sure you're really getting a good step on this one. So your initial step would be you stepping back as you're going to do a split squat. Then you want to step over. Maybe a little uncomfortable for some people, kind of give it a feel. If you need to, step a little bit deeper or step a little bit more forward. And when this one, you want to make sure your foot is kind of turned almost like counter this way, because you really want to get this outer glute and this abductor involved. And this was the same as doing a regular split squat. You want to just drive your knee to the ground while staying in this position. It may feel a little bit uncomfortable. Also, you can do it just body weight, which may help some of you just get into the position. You'll feel a lot of challenge in your ankles. You may feel like some off balance. You also can use a wall. Use a wall to kind of help you balance yourself in position. Use a pole. But you want to make sure you're stepping across enough that you can get this angle of the lunge. So when it comes to weight and what reps you should do, I tend to do a lot of reps because a lot of times I don't have access to a barbell or other weights where I can really load up. So I can take really a heavy to a moderate weight, which is around like 60 or 70%, and I can do 12 to 15 reps, and I can get myself to pushing to failure. And it's a lot easier to get people to focus on pushing to failure from using like moderate weight than to ask someone to use a lot of heavy weight and only get those 3 or 4 reps. So with a lot of people, you can start really body weight, you can start with lighter bells and just focus on repetition and getting that volume from repetition. You can burn out and build muscle that way. Also, with a lot of those exercises, I'm using kettlebells, I'm using dumbbells. You can use barbell, you really want to load up those movements, but you also want to make sure you're focusing on being very good at training unilaterally left to right, because everything you do to one side you have to do to the other side, so that way you really can build strength and lasting stability strength on both sides, instead of being under a barbell where you're doing bilateral movements where you may have some dysfunction or you may have your strong side take over in a lot of your lifts. You really get to focus on splitting up the exercise into 2 parts and then working the left and working the right, and that's way better for long-term lifting and your joints and your health.